So thank you for stopping by and listening to my review slash rant about Sex and the City's new And Just Like That series, the first two episodes. I've been a huge fan. Let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Marie Plett, and ordinarily I'm a resume writer. You can see my other videos on YouTube and see what I look like, blah, blah, blah. But frankly, I look like shit today and wasn't prepared to do this. But I just need to vent a little bit about this particular these episodes. So if you happen to want to see me do this next week or continuing weeks, feel free to make your comments in the comment sections and I'll actually create a nice video for you. In the meantime, enjoy this lovely picture and just listen to me rant. Um, you know, because my gosh, that first episode, this is mostly around the first episode, so I'm going to talk you through step by step my observations. So first we start off in a restaurant where they suggest that the pandemic happened, but it looks like the pandemic never happened in New York City, which is crazy, okay? I mean, I live in the Midwest, all right? I am really I'm in like Trump country where they don't give a crap about mask mandates or your personal health because it's all about my freedom. And yet, there's more mask and social distancing than we see going on in this New York restaurant, which to me sounds absurd. So if there are New Yorkers out there who can tell me if this is sort of accurate or, kind of the norm now, cool. I hope you guys are all, vaccinated and safe or doing whatever precautions. But that just looked wildly like they just want to brush the pandemic under the table, under the rug. Fine. All right, so then they go and what's her name? Mitzi Van Muffling or whatever. She comes up to the girls. Hey, where's Samantha? Oh, she's no longer with us, to do like some sort of gag, like we're supposed to believe that Samantha just up and died. Nice little fake out, but really stupid in real life. No one would ever say that. And they say, oh, she's in London. So now we have this whole thing where Samantha Jones, who was a longtime friend. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to stop right here and just say spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. If you can't handle spoilers, now is the time to just, turn off this video. But now they're talking about Samantha, and apparently the deal is with Kim Cattrall not being there, and we all know, infighting, these actresses hate each other. So, and Kim Cattrall's like, look, hey, I'm 60, I'm not going to be naked and screwing a bunch of dudes on TV anymore. I mean, geez. And I don't blame her. I mean, I wouldn't want to work where I don't want to be, and if there's some mean girl shenanigans, and frankly, I'd be uncomfortable at my best shape being naked and doing all that stuff, and, Kim Cattrall's a goddess. But still, at a point, it gets a little silly. Frankly, it's getting a little silly to me now that these chicks are still in gigantic stiletto heels. Like, is Sarah Jessica Parker, is Carrie Bradshaw going to be hobbling around at 90 on, like, 6-inch, like, Manolo Blahniks? Is that what we're going to be looking at? Like, I'm glad that they let Miranda have some gray hair and have a little bit of aging. But, I guess the stilettos are still in right now. But the Samantha Jones thing, so ridiculous, the backstory. So Samantha Jones, who was best friends with Carrie Bradshaw for the first 5 seasons of the show before Carrie even made her publicist, who was her maid of honor, who brought everybody to Mexico, to help her when her first wedding fizzled out. This best friend who lived in Los Angeles and kept constantly visiting her friends, all of her friends in New York City, we're supposed to believe that she got into a fight with Carrie because Carrie no longer needed her publicity services. And then she flew to London to never return or even talk to either Charlotte or Miranda or any of them. That sounds like a whole big pile of bullshit. Like, they could have come up with a much stronger story. I think they came up with that because they were expecting Samantha or Kim Cattrall to to quote unquote maybe come to her senses and just realize all this money. But Kim Cattrall is an established actress. I think she has all the money she wants. She has, her brother passed away. She has issues. Probably doesn't give a crap about Samantha Jones and playing that character forever. But they could have given us, the audience, they could have let that live. They could have said, Samantha's not coming back, and come up with something better. Like, oh, she got arrested in Abu Dhabi in a prison from that last horrible Sex and the City 2 movie where, maybe she hooked up with Lawrence of My Labia. I don't know. But the Samantha Jones story is really stupid. Okay, so then they go into this restaurant and making all these jokes. It's kind of the normal thing, I guess. Now Miranda is letting her 17-year-old just have all sorts of sex in her house as a high schooler, like he's not even in college yet, and she's stepping on his used condoms. Like, I don't know. I don't know what modern parenting is. I have a 17-year-old stepdaughter. That shit would not fly in my house. I consider myself very sex positive and progressive, but screw you. I'm not stepping on any used condoms in my home. That's just disgusting. Like, get a grip on your family there, Miranda. Charlotte is still exactly Charlotte. She hasn't aged because she never will. With the Oscar de la Renta dresses, it's a nice little slice of life. She's lovely. But then we go into Carrie's dull as hell, cringy, stupid podcast. Who is listening to podcasts like these? And look, I know, I consider myself very progressive. I love all races and genders and blah, blah, blah. But that podcast was just not entertaining. Oh my God. They had to literally list every possible, they had to qualify every joke. Like, they couldn't even just say, oh, you can just, when they're talking about masturbating with a vibrator, it can't even be that. It has, well, everything needs to be consensual. And then, but vibrators, you don't need consent. Well, no shit. That's not a joke. That's not even funny. Like, the fuck. But it was a little lecture. It's a way to sneak in a really unnecessary lecture about consent. Was Sex and the City, I know that Samantha had this play out fantasy with Jared Smith or Smith Jared or whatever. It was a phony little rape scene one time, but there's never really been a consent issue on Sex and the City. Did we need that lecture inserted in? And she's going on about, I appreciate all genders and races and blah, 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 blah. There's maybe 10 seconds of joke in that entire segment, and the rest of it is just blah, 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 blah. Let me stick as many woke words and phrases in a sentence as I possibly can. It is just too heavy-handed. I'm all about woke culture, that's fine, but this is too much boring, heavy-handed. This is the kind of thing that turns people off. And then when she gets, what's her name? Che, I guess, is the character's name. I know she's played by some famous LGBT personality that I am not familiar with. But Che goes into the elevator and smokes some pot and then tells Carrie to step her pussy up. And that was great. That's like an honest, genuine, hilarious moment. That is fabulous. But all this, let's get really into the details of every specific thing we're thinking before we just get to a joke bit of that tedious podcast. They need to make that a little funnier and a little peppier. And then Miranda, and I know that, look, I get that Sex and the City is trying to make up for its, I guess, some of its tone-deaf ways in the past. It was very white, and in New York City, which never made sense to me. And they're trying to make up for this by showing you how these women are really, really trying. But what they've done to show that these women are really, really trying is, one, they've made these women seem kind of stupid for having lived in New York City for 20 years since this show was on and not know how these sort of things have changed or how views have changed or how, you should just correct your behaviors. They haven't learned anything in 20 years living in Manhattan. And they're acting really stupid, and it's but they're trying. These women are, but this wouldn't, none of this would satisfy the Bechdel test. All of these, all of them have new friends who are people of color, and I'm hoping that these people, these new characters, have interesting lives and backstories of their own. I really hope they're not used as just stupid props. Just to be like, every time they're off the scene, they're just talking about how they can educate white people, because I know that's not what they do in their real life. They probably have lives and loves and families and children they want to destroy and all that stuff, like the rest of us. Well, not children they want to destroy, grow up, blah, blah, blah. It's probably a Freudian slip. I digress. But it was just a little kind of heavy-handed and lecturing, and Miranda just seems pretty dumb, and I get she sometimes stumbles in social situations, but she's also an attorney. You'd think she'd be able to speak on her feet sometimes. I mean, geez. Okay, so then of course you have Carrie and Big. And Carrie and Big, there was all these rumors that they were probably like divorced on this series, that they were going to announce a divorcement. I was assuming that the show was going to start off with Carrie just bitching about how terrible Big is now. And no, they're happy, they're cozy, they look great. Their apartment has like the best lighting ever, because these two look like gorgeous in their older age. The beautiful, sexy, we've learned, Carrie now knows how to cook, because they were in COVID, they were in quarantine together and playing records and getting all cozy, and it looked very sweet and romantic. And I'm like, oh no, they're really together. Well, look at that. That's very sweet. And he kept mentioning Peloton, and Allegra of Peloton. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Why the Peloton? This is exhausting. It seemed really forced. But it was a nice moment, very sweet. And then Carrie does something real stupid. Like, she asks Big about masturbation. Big, hey, husband of mine, man, we've been together in 20 years. And I know we live in a big apartment relatively because it's New York City. But how big of an apartment do we have that I've been with you all this time, and I have no idea if you masturbate or not? Like, has she met Big? I mean, did they never have any sexual conversation? This woman ran a sex column for decades and writes about sex, and she's embarrassed to be on a podcast that talks about sex and can't even say if she masturbates. Everybody masturbates, okay? Yeah, it's like asking somebody, hey, do you eat? Do you drink? Do you sleep? Yes. Do you masturbate? Yes. Hey, Big, do you masturbate? Oh, I won't answer that question. I feel like it's a trick question. No, it's not a fucking trick question. It's a stupid question. It's a real dumb question. Like, how big is that apartment? You don't know if your man is masturbating. It's so stupid. I was like, they got all sexy again and lovey. And I'm like, okay. They're trying to force a cute moment here. And then we have the piano recital. And this one's interesting because we finally get to see Stafford Blatch and Anthony Marantino. They're now married. I was always kind of wondering how that worked. They hated each other. They started off with a bad date, and then they didn't like each other through seasons like 5 and 6. And then Sex and the City, the first movie, they had some sort of surprise moments with each other. And then by the intro of the second movie, which is one of their worst franchise, which is the only thing I really dislike about Sex and the City, was that horrible second movie. But then it starts off with them getting married. And even at the wedding ceremony, Anthony is just talking about how he gets to cheat. Like, oh, hey, how's your boutonniere? Oh, that's a cute dog in your purse, Samantha. Oh, and I get to cheat on my husband. Like, who does that at their wedding? That's really like a stupid thing to announce. Even if your husband lets you cheat, you don't sit there and talk about it like before you exchange vows. Like, it's, oh yeah, we decided to go with the pink bridesmaids dresses. No, you don't say that. Like, that's insane. And it's, I know that I guess they were building this up to something now, because now Anthony is constantly cheating, and I don't blame him, because man, they've made Stafford into such a bitch in this, and I feel so bad because I'm heartbroken over Willie Garson. He passed away, so we're gonna see how they are able to write him off, because I guess he died during production, and that's really tragic. And what's weird is, obviously, in this episode, watching Stafford is like the least heartbreaking thing. because we're going into this recital, and of course, Brady, Miranda's horny little son, can't get his tongue out of his girlfriend's mouth for 5 seconds, not even at a recital. Like, have some respect, my God. And he's like, I'm sex positive. Not in a recital, you're not. You know, like, Miranda just needs to hold, like, a little squirt gun full of water and just, you know, spray it in her face like her kid's a dog, because, my gosh, man, he needs to cool it with those hormones. But whoever is the actress who plays Lily now, who did that piano recital, my God, incredible, amazing. That was just an insanely good performance. But of course, when he's doing when Big starts doing the Peloton to the piano thing, I'm like, ah, shit. I'm like, he's going to have a heart attack. He's just going to drop dead. I know they can't, you know, I always thought that they were going to try to make Carrie single again. And they were making rumors about this divorce. And, you know, I think it was like Page Six or the New York Post or somebody was like saying, oh, there's rumors that, you know, Chris Noth is not going to be in the entire series, that they're going to start off divorce. I said, divorce sounds really on brand with this couple. But no, they had to have the most devastating kind of heart attack scene, and his phone goes into the shower and he kind of slips and he's just sitting there staring, realizing he's going to die as Carrie comes in, and Carrie takes forever to even realize what's going on and doesn't seem to be calling an ambulance or doing CPR or doing anything quick enough. It's just a devastating scene. And then immediately my thought was, how the hell did Peloton sign off on this? This is the worst ad for Peloton. And I realize, you know, cardiovascular exercise is very good. Big, had cardiovascular issues like in season 5. I think he had to get like an angioplasty. So heart issues clearly run in his family. And so I'm sure that this was his 1,000th trip on a Peloton. I'm sure whatever he was doing prolonged that sort of inevitable conclusion. But my God, that was just devastating and really unexpected. So that really took me by surprise. The second episode, I'm starting to warm up a little bit to it. We have new characters, and I don't know if they're going to have, you know, any kind of impact going forward. We have Big's secretary, who we've never met or heard of, and she seems like she's going to be some sort of shadow character who's going to take more space. They do love giving a lot of time to crazy old white women. They always have on Sex and the City, especially now. We had another Bitsy Von Muffling moment for the second episode, where she talks about how her husband, Bobby, played famously by Nathan Lane, he passed away from COVID-19, which is, you know, that one kind of stung. But they do need to kind of mention all the deaths in New York City. Yeah, that's very topical in a lot of these characters. I mean, one of the characters actually died while filming. So I'm glad that they sort of addressed that. But then they had, what's her name? Susan Sharon. Who gives a crap about Susan Sharon? Why did she have to have a moment? Why are we bringing that crazy old white lady back? She's the Kashmir connection with the bitchy husband, right? Like, did she have more than, I think she had maybe 2 episodes, but I know she had like 1 good episode. And now we're bringing her back? Like, who could possibly care? Who woke up saying, oh my God, I want to see Sex and the City, the new series, and oh my God, I hope to God they bring back Susan Sharon. Nobody cares. Like, that's so weird. So weird, so random. I thought the funeral was weird. Carrie's planning a funeral for Big. She goes to a funeral parlor, which is like totally standard for funeral parlors. And she's like, oh, Big would hate this. It's too old. It's too, I know, it's like the walls are painted. It might be too cozy and too personal. And you know, Big was all about minimalist art. No, Big, he even hated when he was with Natasha. All the furniture was beige. Big is like comfortable, warm, cigars, leather, you know, navy blues, reds, a big red wall. Like, Big had some style. He wasn't minimalist art in a lesbian gallery. You know, like, what was that? And it's just like, oh, here's a bunch of white, soulless
plastic chairs and oh my gosh, what's this? There are flowers. We big hated flowers. Everything's like flower free. Like, why do we hate flowers? And now and of course there's these gorgeous flowers on the coffin, which is the only thing that makes it look like a funeral. Everything else looks like they're about to view an art exhibit. And the flowers are from Samantha. The Samantha who hates her friends so much that she will not communicate with them. All of them, any of them, moved to London. She never comes back to New York because why would she? She couldn't stay away from New York when she lived in Los Angeles. But she's going to spend what looks like thousands of dollars on these gorgeous flowers because she can't even talk to these women. Okay, that makes sense. And they're the only flowers there because, we hate flowers. Flowers mean, I don't know. It's just weird. I guess it's a style. I don't get it, but okay. And then we have another character that might show up. I think he's just there more to validate that Big had a life of his own and that they loved Carrie. His family loved Carrie. So they had his brother come in and say a few words. I don't know if he's going to make a comeback or not in this series, but it was just sort of an interesting aside. They had that weird, again, Shay comes in talking about funeral bouncer. I didn't get that until the secretary started crying. I'm like, who needs a bouncer at a funeral? Like, that's weird. And then funeral bouncer goes in and starts offering later on Brady, the 17-year-old, some pot. Didn't realize who it was. And, I get it. It was just sort of to bring this moment up between Miranda and Shay. And honestly, I gotta say, afterwards and seeing some of the interactions of the previews in future episodes, I kind of almost think, and I might be off base here, but I kind of almost think that was like Miranda going off on Shay for giving her son pot was like their little meet cute, because it seems like it's a little flirtatious in nature when they started getting to know each other, and Shay started calling her like Rambo. And so the actress Cynthia Nixon, who plays Miranda, is a known lesbian. They, in the future scenes when they show more of them kind of, giggling together. And then Miranda goes to Shay's stand-up comedy show and calls her like a prophet, like a prophet of our time. And then also remarks about how she and Steve are basically roommates that eat ice cream together. If you watch the coming soon on the next episodes, in those glimpses, I'm kind of interested in seeing how this relationship progresses, because I almost want to think that they might hook up. Like, Miranda might be a late in life lesbian. Who knew? Maybe stepping on too many condoms and yelling at her deaf husband, maybe she's looking for something else. So we'll see that. But definitely, by now, we know that Miranda has a drinking problem. In the first episode, she had to get to school before going to the school. She had to get to a bar before it opened. She has to get to the bar before it opens at the funeral. She's bringing wine to the dance recital. I don't think this chick can go an hour without drinking, and she's freaking out about her son smoking a little pot at a funeral. I think there's obviously some hypocrisy there. We also see in this episode that Carrie has a painful back and has to rely on pain medication, and has a hard time going through even 5 hours without taking these pills, which again, Miranda sits there and polices her pill taking, which is good. It's nice. That's what a friend should do. You want to prevent addiction, but it seems like the big addict here in this whole thing is Miranda in the first place. So I find this interesting. I think we're going to see a lot about addiction going into this. And of course, but a lot of this episode really centers on Carrie and Charlotte, and the anger over, and just the frustration of the unfortunate timing of Carrie going to Lily's Lily's piano thing. And it does make me think, Lily has kind of ruined Carrie Bradshaw's life twice now, hasn't she? In the first Sex and the City movie, one of the big reasons Big doesn't show up for the wedding is because he keeps calling Carrie and calling Carrie and calling Carrie, and Carrie doesn't answer the phone. He just needs that little bit of reassurance to get his ass to the altar. And what happens? Lily takes Sarah Jessica or Carrie's phone and talks into it, and then hides it into her little cupcake purse. And so Carrie doesn't know where her purse is the whole time, and has no way to talk to Big. So the second time, because, Carrie has to go see Lily perform, she just has to go see it, I'd be like, you know what? I know that Carrie's her godmother and all, but it ain't my kid. I want to go to the Hamptons with my man. She's a good friend. I don't know that my friends could necessarily talk me into that, something like that. But there was some anger between the two of them because of unfortunate timing. And yeah, we don't know that just because she was in the Hamptons with Big meant that he wouldn't have had a heart attack right then. Frankly, if he was driving them to the Hamptons and had a heart attack, he could have killed them both. I mean, we don't know, shoulda, woulda, coulda, but there was a lot of anger over the shoulda, woulda, coulda. And of course, they're, fighting over that. But they make up because they know how, while their pain is very valid, it's also kind of rooted in nothing that could be changed or solved. So they get over that. But again, in this episode, we also see Stafford being bitchy again about the funeral seats. Like, I mean, I don't know. Again, I'm curious as how they're going to write off Willie Garson's Stafford Blatch in this because of Willie Garson's passing. But do they have to make him into such a little bitch before? I feel bad for Willie Garson. Like, he's leaving on a bad note. I really wish they made Stafford less irritating and more likable so that we can just, send him away on a good level. But maybe he's such a bitch that he just sort of storms out of everybody's life and he joins Samantha in London. I don't know. But of course, why I pivoted to Stafford again is because I'm remembering him in that scene where Carrie is fighting with Charlotte. And of course, he's there early, making very, very strong martinis with Cynthia Nixon in the morning, Miranda in the morning. And of course, Miranda's always good for a drink. Just because they brought Big's ashes to Carrie in such an unrefined manner. And frankly, that is true life. That is what happens when somebody dies and you get them cremated. They will actually send you a package that says cremated remains inside in real big bold letters, just in case any porch pirates try to steal your Christmas goods. And they're like, oh, no, it's not this one. It's somebody's dead remains. And I understand it's great that they label it like that, but still, it's a jarring experience. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but it does suck. And that is the reality of cremation. All in all, I think the upcoming episode previews look like they're going to find their way back into the Sex and the City swing of things. It does look like Sarah Jessica Parker might be dating again. They had a lot of quick video snaps of really hot guys that are not at all age appropriate for Sarah Jessica Parker. But we'll see where that takes them. I'm excited. I'm roped in. They got me again. God damn it, they locked me into this again. I wanted to leave, but they keep pulling me back in like The Godfather. I'm going to be watching these episodes. Let me know if you'd like to hear more of these rants. I know I went off the rails a bit, but I just had to get it off my chest. And if you guys want to see more, I'll do an actual video next week. All right, you guys take care.